Thanks very much, Mark. Chair, NEC, conference and guests, thank you so much for that introduction. It's a really great pleasure for me to be here today in Eastbourne, speaking to the PCS's sister union. And I want to start by paying tribute to your General Secretary, Steve Gillen. Steve is a great friend to me personally, but also to my union PCS, and he always speaks up for what is right. Well known for doing the right thing and for putting the issues of POA members at the very forefront of what he does. Not only is he your General Secretary, but he's currently the President of the TUC. And he's a great chair of the TUC because he's fair, because he's decent, and above all, because he's kind. But when Steve speaks, people listen. Like PCS, although not a massive union, the POA regularly punches above its weight at the TUC, so I want to say thank you to Steve. Another great friend of PCS, though, was Joe Simpson. When I became president at what was a really difficult time for PCS before becoming General Secretary, Joe Simpson was always there for me to encourage and support me. He is hugely missed across the trade union movement, and I was really honoured to go to Leeds last week and attend his memorial. And I think it's a great thing that you've renamed that Leeds building Simpson House, or Joe Simpson House, ensuring that Joe's name lives on in the history of the POA. Last night reminded me and all of us about the huge difference that unions make to our members' lives. I was honoured to attend the meal and to meet some of the Franklin prison staff and to hear about that life-changing event and how, when the employer was found wanting, it was POA that stepped up to ensure that you were supported, that you were recognised, and most importantly, that you were heard. At a time when something life-changing happens that had consequences that will stay with those individuals forever, POA was there for you, and everybody in this room should feel immensely proud of that and of the positive difference that your union and reps like Paul and so many others have made to people's lives and keep making that difference every single day. That's what we're there for, isn't it? PCS is incredibly proud, as I said, the long-standing bond between our two unions and the solidarity that exists between our members. Next week, our members meet along the coast in Brighton, and we will be debating many of the same issues as you are this week, whether that's trade union rights, the Employment Rights Act, visa thresholds, the capita pension scandal, winning better pay, and tackling the threat of the far right, which is a huge threat, in fact, to trade unions and to public services. I'm a lifelong trade unionist. I was a lay rep in my union for 30 years and serving as PCS president for 5 years before I became the General Secretary of PCS, the first woman of PCS and its predecessor unions. And PCS has long been a majority female union, but equality is something that has been fought for, and we've had to tackle misogyny in the workplace and even within the union in the past, and I know we're not alone in that. Those battles are vital in the trade union movement, not as a distraction, not as an optional extra, but really vital in the work that we do. And it's easy to understand that if we consider what is the fundamental purpose of a trade union, it is to unite working class people and to bring workers together. And as every branch rep and organiser knows, the more members you've got, the better your union density, the stronger you are. United we stand, divided we fall. That is why sexism, racism, homophobia or any other sort of bigotry is a cancer in our movement, because it divides people. There is, I hope, a good principled reason why we should all want to tackle discrimination and bigotry, because we're equal, of equal worth, of equal value, and with equal rights. But there are also good practical reasons why we cannot allow division to take root. When we allow the cancer of division to grow in a workplace or in a union, it weakens us, and I don't want our union movement weakened. It is in all of our interest to have that movement strengthened, and our interests are shared as trade unions, and perhaps, as Mark says, none more so than over the shambles that is capita pensions. And it was great to hear your debate this morning. Our members are frustrated and they are confused. Maybe not as confused as Andy Baxter waking up on the hotel roof, but still very confused and still very angry. This is a company that has failed on outsourced contract after outsourced contract. Before the last election, both Rachel Reeves and Shadow Chancellor and Angela Rayner, then Deputy Leader, promised the biggest wave of insourcing in a generation. When it comes to what's happened on insourcing, far from that tsunami of insourcing, it would be generous to call it a ripple. Instead, what we're seeing is a continued wave of outsourcing. This is a broken promise from the Labour government, so far at least, and I'd like to say that the contracts get awarded to the highest bidder, but they don't, do they? I think, as one of the delegates said this morning, they get awarded to the lowest bidder, to the company that can do it on the cheap, and then the only way they can make a profit is by driving down pay, terms and conditions of the workers working on those contracts. And one of the most egregious failures currently is over the administration of civil service pensions, as we heard this morning, which was outsourced under a coalition government. Late last year, the new contract was awarded to Capita. Since then, though, civil service pension administration has gone from bad to worse. There are thousands, many thousands of recently retired civil servants who have been left without any income at all because they are not receiving the pension that they spent their working lives paying into. Workers who are coming up to retirement or have been offered voluntary redundancy are unable to even get a pension statement. The system is a shambles, and the stories are heartbreaking, and it is fast becoming another post office scandal. And it is far from the first outsourcing shambles that Capita have been involved in. As we heard in the debate earlier, Capita's handling of army recruitment fell so far short that in 2024, the Defence Committee confirmed plans to replace the contractor after it achieved just 63% of its recruitment target, the worst performance in 5 years. And just last year, the Information Commissioner's Office fined Capita £14 million following a data breach that exposed the personal information of millions of people back in 2023. And again this year, Capita has also been involved in another data breach when 138 civil service pension scheme members had their details shared with other people. And so it was a slap in the face for civil servants and for basic common sense when this year the company was handed a £900 million 10-year contract for managing the payroll of 250,000 civil servants, including in the Ministry of Justice. What could possibly go wrong? What has happened to the biggest wave of insourcing in a generation? We as trade unionists are not passive spectators. We cannot sit on the sidelines waiting for a Labour government or any other government to deliver. In recent weeks, PCS has won a compensation scheme for members affected by the Capita pensions failure. Another of the campaigns that both POA and PCS have been running in the past year, alongside other progressive unions like the RMT, is against the government's changes to visa thresholds. Let me tell you about Farouk. Farouk was a worker in the DWP. He worked on the child maintenance scheme. He was a graduate, he was incredibly intelligent, and he was good at his job. He was trained to do the job, and he did the job well. When the visa scandal started to emerge, Farouk stepped up to become a PCS rep to represent members in his workplace who were facing deportation. Farouk was a really good PCS rep, and he represented a lot of members very successfully. As a result of that, Farouk was awarded in 2025 the PCS Activist of the Year award. But we had to bring the presentation forward because on the day that Farouk should have collected the award at PCS conference in 2025, Farouk was deported back to Nigeria. And it is a nonsense. The threat that trained, skilled prison officers risk being deported because the government didn't pay you enough to do your jobs was very real. And it proposed doing that at a time of rising pressure on the prison estate and a shortage of prison officers. And I want to congratulate you on the win that you have achieved for your members. It is a real success for the POA. Just as an injury for one is an injury to all, so a victory for one union strengthens the chances of victory for another. When you win, we all win. We have the same issues. The National Audit Office says there is a shortage of 2,000 work coaches working in job centres, and that was before unemployment went up in the last year. Yet the government is deporting DWP staff, its own workforce, including work coaches, again, because the government doesn't pay them enough to meet the government's own visa thresholds. And I want to talk about unity and solidarity. We are all about uniting people. The clue is in the name union. It is there in the slogans of our movement: united we stand, divided we fall. An injury to one is an injury to all. But there are forces within society, including prominent politicians, who are seeking to divide us as workers, to turn us against each other, and we must not lose focus. It is not asylum seekers that have driven down wages. It is not migrants that are jacking up rents. It is not disabled people that are hiking energy bills. And it is not trans people who are dumping raw sewage in our rivers and seas. The people that are ripping us off are the low-paying bosses, the rip-off landlords, and the profiteering corporations. Our job as trade unionists, as reps within our respective unions, is to educate our members and provide a counterweight to the right-wing press. But fundamentally, our role is to deliver a better standard of living to our members, because where we don't succeed, hopelessness sets in, and it's on that despair that more negativity forces feed. PCS welcomes the Employment Rights Act, and we pay tribute to those without whom it would not have happened. All of our sister unions, the TUC, the Institute for Employment Rights, and several Labour MPs like Andy MacDonald, like Justin Madders, and like John McDonnell, without whom it would have been allowed to be watered down so much further. Some parts of the Act have already become law. Ordinary parental leave has become a day one right. Whistleblowing protections have been extended to cover sexual harassment. And next year, the qualifying period to be protected against unfair dismissal will be reduced from 2 years to 6 months. We fought for that day one right, but unfortunately the government conceded to the amendment by the House of Lords. So we have to be watchful that other measures in the Act currently out for consultation are implemented in full. They include the right to flexible working, giving trade unions access to workplaces, around restricting fire and rehire. It is so important for all unions and activists to respond to the consultations, keep up our campaigning, and ensure that there is no more dilution of the Act. But even if those remaining statutes are implemented in full, the Act does not go far enough. It still leaves workers in Britain with fewer rights and protections at work than our fellow workers in many European countries. And so with our union allies and with progressive MPs in Parliament, PCS will be campaigning for a second employment rights bill that goes further and really rebalances power between workers and bosses, and I hope that you will join us in that. Government ministers like to talk about collective bargaining now, which is progress. But while they talk the talk, they barely walk the walk. Their definition is currently limited to just 2 areas: teaching assistants and care workers. And those will be a real step forward for those workers. But the lack of ambition in the bill to go any further is hugely disappointing and will leave workers everywhere weaker. In the core civil service, we have delegated pay bargaining. That means there are over 200 sets of pay negotiations every single year about what is ultimately the same pot of money. And so the government does not even have collective bargaining for the one industry that it completely controls, the civil service. In its own backyard, the government has failed to deliver entirely. And let me say something about the prison service. PCS members who work in the prison service have the right to strike. Prison officers in Scotland have the right to strike, but prison officers in England and Wales do not. PCS fully supports the POA in their demand for the right to strike to be restored to your prison officers, taken away from you by the Tories in the 1990s. And we stand with you, shoulder to shoulder, and will always stand with you until your rights are fully restored. I want you to know that whether it's on capita pensions, visa thresholds, or the right to strike, PCS is your ally, your struggle is our struggle, and we will be campaigning alongside you every step of the way. Thank you so much for having me along to speak today. It has been an honour. And when I was sitting in the Duke of Devonshire last night, somebody told me the thing about the POA is that we're one big family. And in the tough times that we know we're facing and coming ahead, it is that solidarity, that comradeship that will get you through and will get all of us through. I bring you my solidarity and the solidarity of PCS members and assure you that you can rely on it always. Thank you so much.
Fran, right there. Fran, right there. You don't get off that easy. It's great to see you again, Fran, and you're very welcome at POA conference anytime. It's great to have your support as a union. I know you're always there for us, backing us on the right to strike and the latest pensions debacle. So every year when we have guest speakers, I go to the Rock Shop in town, and I couldn't get you any Guinness flavour, because I know you like the odd pint of the black stuff. So because I think you're a funky person, I got you some funky seagull flavoured rock. I haven't got a clue what it tastes like. I just hope the seagulls haven't been on the tablets and have got irregular bowel movements. But anyway, I've got a little gift for you as well. Please show your appreciation to Fran Heathcote.